what's going on, everybody? You already know who it is, Mr. Timothy Lamar Cato III, or just simply Cato. And today, on I Got More to Say, a hip-hop podcast where we talk everything related to the world of urban and black music culture. I have a near and dear friend of mine, pretty much a brother of mine. I met this young man at SUNY Oswego, or excuse me, as it's known as Oswego University. Met this young man 2017. Instantly we hit it off. He became my brother. Not only was I inspired by just the way he carried himself, but by his positivity, but also I was inspired by his ability to rap and his ability to paint pictures with his words. Coming all the way, still at Syracuse University, working in the DEIA office. That's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Beautiful Daze, the album I executive produced, where we actually just rapped on recording and just shot our first music video. Hailing all the way from Buffalo, New York. At the ripe, tender age of 25 years old, my guy, Mr. Markel Franks Jeffries, Frankie Knuckles. How you doing, my guy?
Man, it's a blessing to be here, man. You know the motto, King. It's a beautiful day to have a beautiful day. So we gonna have one. I'm glad, you know what I'm saying? I feel great that you took a year off, but we 26 years blessed, you know what I'm saying?
My fault, player. I'm sorry.
Nah, man, thank you for having me, brothers. You know, it's definitely well overdue, and we're gonna have a good conversation.
Nah, most certainly. Frankie, thank you so much for being here, player. There's so many things we got to talk about, but we got to jump straight in because I know you got some previous business that you got to handle. But Frankie, what I always like to start with is, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started with music, you know what I'm saying, where you're from, give us like a little bit of a general background.
For sure. So who is Franks? So Franks is a personality of Markel. Markel is who I am. Like you said, coming from Buffalo, March baby, Pisces baby. Coming from the east side of Buffalo. So that's a place that has some grit, got some character to it. Buffalo is a very small place, but you learn a lot because you see a lot, you go through a lot, especially being in such a concentrated area. And so we always try to figure out, like, what do we do with that? What do we do with the things that we learned growing up, the things that we've been exposed to, like, through media and stuff like that? So one of the big things for me was putting that pain, putting that, the triumphs, and really just that whole wholesome journey of my life up until that point, even till now, and put it into music. A lot of people don't watch the news or, really consume all types of media that news come from. So it's like, why not music? Music is one of those universal things. It's like a universal language. So, that just made sense for me to do that. Definitely got some inspiration from like my uncle, who started rapping when I was like 9 and stuff like that. And then really just branching off into shit, people with heavy bars and like just lyricists. So that's something that really compelled me to music, and that's why I'm still here. So.
Got you. Well, Frankie, so what age did you start rapping at? Because I know you said 8, 9, 10 years old is like when you really was inspired by what was going on around you. But being from Buffalo, which has, a very thorough hip-hop scene, what age was it like, you know what? I want to do this. And who inspired you to, this 10-year journey that you've been on as far as being a rapper?
So I say my uncle really planted that seed when I was like 9.
Okay.
But I didn't really make my first song that I was confident in and record it until I was about like 15 years old, like going into my freshman year of high school. And really my inspirations for that was like really the people who was getting me to school, like, the people who I was listening to on the bus, like the Fred the Godsons, the Freck Billionaires, the like, I don't know, just like mad underground Philly rappers, New York rappers. Cause I feel like that underground, that lane, like, it's so raw, so uncut. That's where you see people's humble beginnings at, before they go to the mainstream or whatever their next leap into their career is. But that underground is where that like real pain and passion really comes from. So those are the type of people who I was listening to, and then really who inspired me. Because as I started going, becoming a teenager, like having a girlfriend, going through like, becoming a boy to a man and stuff like that, like I needed somebody to hear relatable stories too, you know what I'm saying? Especially like not having a pops or like a father figure like constantly there in a picture. So
Nah, I understand, man. Well, I definitely understand where I'm coming from because I know music is something I gravitated to, not, what I'm saying, really having my pops around. So I definitely respect that. So Franks, so you said around 14, 15 years old, you first made your first serious song.
For sure.
So what was that feeling like? Because, I know you said like middle school, like, you listen to a lot of Fred the Godson, a lot of Frank Billionaires, your uncle. But then for you to go and make your own song, I know you said that you had to be confident in it. Like, was was it like a high, I finally made a song I like, I crafted something, what I'm saying, that I like? Like, was it something like, okay, I got to keep going at this? Or was you thinking like, okay, like I'm good at this or I can be great at this and I want to make it a career? Like, what was like the trajectory after recording that first song?
That's a good question. So I think when I first started, I guess when I started getting into a groove of making music, it was about really just me sounding good on my favorite beats that I like listening to from like my favorite rappers. So it's like me, I was on my own like jacking for beats type, grind, you know what I'm saying, without the recording. And so when I recorded my first song, it was supposed to be to the Stay Scheming beat by Drizzy.
Rick Ross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a hard jam, but my uncle, he was like, you want to be a little bit more impactful and intentional, and like so he had this beat that he made. He just pulled something out the files, and I was like, all right, I rock with it. And so I spit the same joint. So it was like 4 minutes of straight bars, like monotone, me sounding monotone, but like just straight punchline, punchline, punchline. And because that's the type of structures that I was listening to. And so I was like, this joint sound hard to me, like it's like I'm on a high, like I'm a rapper now, you know what I'm saying? Like at least that's how I interpreted that. And so I remember going into high school, like it was like a private high school, like, you know what I'm saying, only a couple black men, like black boys, and rest is like predominantly white, like with these Catholic backgrounds and stuff like that. And so for me to go to school like the next day or like the next week when they discovered that song, it was like people was talking about it. Like I seen people like in homeroom, like with that joint on a like Facebook, pulled up and just listening to it. I'm like, yo, these people listening to me, like, and like people start chatting with me and who I never really spoke to. So it's like, if I can have that type of reaction, like just off of this, like it's the I would say the opportunities was endless. And like now that I reflect back on that and to see where I'm at in my journey now, it's like he was right. Cause I couldn't even like as many things that has happened in my music journey, it's like I still can't believe that's happened because it really just all started from a thought. You know what I'm saying? Like a thought in my mom's, either in my bedroom, my mom's living room, wherever. Like I'm just crafting bars or I'm pretending that I'm performing and stuff like that. And that's now these are real things. So it's like, it's really just a surreal feeling, and really got to keep myself grounded in those moments.
Nah, definitely. Nah, well, Frankie, let's take it to Oswego. So, like I said, this is when I met you. So I remember when I met you, I didn't know you as a rapper. I just knew you because you was an RA within the building that we was in.
For sure.
And I didn't really go to a whole lot of like the events that was going on like freshman year and like sophomore year. I didn't really go to a lot of them, the Alanas or the Worlds and everything such as that. So I never forget it though. You had a freestyle to Jadakiss's Y Beat. And then I remember that you had you did a freestyle at, I believe it was the variety show. And that's when I first started paying attention. I'm like, okay, like this dude got bars, he can rap, he's different. So how did Oswego, the place where we met and the place that we got a lot of love for, the place, what I'm saying, where you still are, where you still frequent, where you still occupy, how did that, what did that experience as far as being an undergraduate in college teach you?
Right.
Like, did it make you a better performer? Like, did it show like, okay, I'm not just hot to the people around me who I grew up with my whole life because you're born and raised in Buffalo, but I'm also hot to people who, what I'm saying, I just met. Like, what was the impact of Oswego on your artistry?
Yeah, Oswego held a big part in my artistry. Like, I think back to my freshman year, like, just crafting my first album, like, what I'm saying, there, which was Frank's the album, which didn't get released till my senior year, you know what I'm saying? But I was like crafting at least some songs and like starting that process then, because I was far from home, like I didn't have my family there to chop it up and stuff like that with. And, I'm not a person who's always friendly. I'm a nice person, but I'm not always like receptive to, gravitating towards friends. Like that's just my introverted side of me. So like music was just one of those things. And I remember like um talking about the variety show, like there was somebody, his name is Ori, like, he got his own clothing brand. Shout out to Foreplay.
Yeah, facts. Shout out to Ori because
Yeah,
I never met him,
yeah.
but I've always admired his work and like his sense of fashion from afar. So definitely shout out to Ori.
Shout out to
Never met you, player, but I admire what you did at Oswego. Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so he was like, he seen on Instagram that I was dropping an album. Like I posted like December 2015 that I was like dropping an album like that January. And so he seen it, he tapped into some songs and he was like, "Yo, bro, you nice." And so for Black History Month, the Black Student Union has like a variety show, and so he was like, "Yo, you should be in the cipher." I'm like, "All right, why not?" So this was my first time actually performing outside of Buffalo, outside of my peers and stuff like that, outside of my family. And it was just like, all right, let me go for it. Like, let me test it out. And I remember spitting it. I remember going to the rehearsals. Like, it was off the Cameron and no, it was Cameron and Kanye West Down and Out beat. So that beat is just already a natural like banger. But I just remember spitting and practicing to it, and then like when we had like the variety show run through, I spit it and like I had my eyes closed because I'm like, I don't know these people, and it's just people all like that was just performing for the show. So I had my eyes closed, and as I was spitting, I heard people saying "ooh" and stuff like that. So I'm like, nah, word. And so like just from there, I was already like I was hyped. Then the next day we had the performance, and then everybody was just going crazy, like, oh, like this is the kid. Like at that time I had like clear glasses. They was like, oh, this the kid with the clear glasses. This the kid that rap. This the dude from BSU. Like, so I kind of built my kind of a foundation off of music in Oswego, and then it kind of branched off into like me doing what I do now, like the advocacy work and just all that other thing, and really just giving back to those next generations. So I would say that's a big, like Oswego played a big role in that for me. Just the development for me becoming a boy to a man, like from being kind of always dependent on family and home to kind of having that more individual accountability for myself. So
Now, Frankie, one thing I noticed too is that you're still very much involved in Oswego as far as like the music scene in Oswego, because even though Oswego is a very small town technically, like DMA, shout out to DMA, the organization I was the president of. Anyways, so even with DMA, you were at the Creators Ball, and you still find time to really still stay connected and stay involved in what's going on in Oswego, even though as you said before, like your time as a student has come, and you accept it for what it is. What do you feel like is the future of like the Oswego music scene? Because I felt the Creators Ball had a lot of dopeness there.
yeah.
Because sorry to cut you off, but I feel like you helped set the foundation and set the standard for what I'm saying, like really being like just for Oswego in general, what I'm saying? Like, as far as just having quality raps, releasing full-fledged projects, doing shows, I feel like, that you definitely, I feel like you're somebody, like, in the last few years, somebody who's, like, revered as an artist, as a spitter.
I appreciate that, man. I would say a lot of people kind of built that platform for me, like, like the BSU cipher was always a thing before me, or at least a couple years, like preceding me. And so like for me to kind of go in there and I don't know, just I feel like I needed to do something. So it was like how can I maximize my time here? And so, I was doing these shows and stuff like that, just getting my voice out there and posting mad stuff on mad videos on Instagram and stuff like that, just letting people know this is what I do. But I think my 4 years, there really, besides the cipher, there wasn't really no organized or sustainable thing for like creatives or artists or like music artists specifically to do their thing. So just fast forward now and to see something like a creators ball where it's like there are artists here. This is a space like specifically for them to do their thing, to to be with their peers, to allow their peers to hear them in a different light, and for them to kind of see what they lane is, you know, because it's a lot of people who are strictly studio performers, who are strictly studio rappers, and like, you know, I see that with the drill, you know, like with the new NYC drill when they gotta have the deep voice and stuff like that, like, you know, and that's not everybody's voice, so it's like, how do you translate that into real performances and stuff like that? So, you know, I think it's cool, like an event like that for people to do that in a comfortable way. Like you're not losing anything, you know what I'm saying? And really I just want to be, you know, as long as I'm there and wherever I'm at, whoever I get to be in contact with, like, just to be there as guidance. Like I'm not there, I'm not a famous artist or nothing like that, but you know, I definitely been and have had a journey where I'm able to kind of give advice and also humble enough to receive advice from people. So it's like I'm kind of in that middle frame where it's like I'm not a newcomer, but I'm not like a OG. So it's like, but I've tapped in with both sides. You get what I'm saying? So it's like I can be receptive of getting the game, and I can also give the game out in a way where it's receptive to others. So.
Okay. Well, Frankie, shout out to you for definitely giving back to our alma mater. You know what I'm saying? I definitely want to give back to Oswego one day. I feel like I do now a little bit, but, you know, I definitely want to be able to really do something substantial as to what you're doing. So I really respect your mission and your grind, homie.
Appreciate it.
Another quick thing. Your rapping is taking you further than Oswego. You know, your rapping is taking you all the way to New York City and it's gotten you in front of Jadakiss, Fat Joe, and Cardi B, the likes of those kind of artists. What was the name of that show?
Rhythm and Flow.
Rhythm and Flow.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about that experience? Because I remember on your second album, I remember on your second album, Liberation, you spoke about, I think you had a song on there, Richie's Resilience.
Yeah.
You had Richie's Resilience where you spoke about your experiences on there, and I felt like once that happened and you got it off your chest on Richie's Resilience, and then you refocused and you dropped the Butterfly Effect, which to me right now to date is your best project. I feel like that experience really helped craft you as an artist and really, you know, help you refine some things and made you hungrier. So anyways, what was that experience like being in front of all those legendary people?
Yeah, so that was a crazy process. So for those people out there, I didn't so my filming didn't make it on the actual airing of the show, but yeah, man, it was just a dope experience to be able to, because I had to do an application for it. So it was like an initial application that they would just send in people or that anybody could apply to. Then it was like I got contacted for like all the filming auditions, and so like I did like a YouTube kind of tape type John, and then from there they was like, all right, we want you to do like the actual live performance and stuff like that. So for me, like that was 2019, so like well over like 4 years ago. Like that was my first kind of real big endeavor, you know what I'm saying? Besides like doing open mics or like besides doing performances like at Oswego or in Buffalo for showcases and stuff like that. So like my nerves was all over the place, you know, and it was kind of interesting to see kind of like the business and like TV side of things, because some things are actually scripted, but then also kind of getting that feedback from people who are in the game, you know what I'm saying? Like, although it felt like it was a kind of scripted type situation, like I feel like I got authentic feedback. So like, definitely one thing that ring out is Fat Joe saying like, you got potential, you know what I'm saying? Like, you let me see you sweat, you know what I'm saying? But like, you got potential, you know what I'm saying? And so for me, it was like, that was I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I went through a depression after that, because it was like, damn, I thought I was raw at this, and it was like, these are people who are like kind of like high performer at what they do. Like Cardi B won a Grammy that year and stuff like that. So
Jadakiss is a legendary boss spitter.
that's what I'm saying. So it was like to hear that from them, and then like thinking that I was, you know, thinking that my part was gonna be on the show. I'm like, damn, the whole world gonna see this and me fold and fumble and stuff like that. But you know, I think after a couple months of really just thinking about that and processing it, like think about the takeaways, like that really was a defining moment in my like music career. Like you talked about Richie's Resilience, so like in that song I kind of talked about like, damn, I failed, like not failed, but like I stumbled, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't do, you know, to the highest of my capabilities. However, like I was able to take those things away, and like I had to showcase, rocking out with Benny the Butcher, and stuff like that, like Black Soprano Family, Griselda, like where I was able to kind of take all of those notes that I got from Cardi B, Fat Joe, Jadakiss, and then use that in the showcase to be able to go on tour, to go to different cities and stuff like that. And to do that with people from my hometown, like that's something that's monumental. So it's like, yeah, I didn't get to go to Cali or wherever the places was. I didn't get to be a D Smoke. Shout out to D Smoke for winning Rhythm and Flow. But I got to be a Franks. You know what I'm saying? I got to be somebody who didn't have to sign a label, didn't have to sell my soul or anything to put myself out there in these different places and just gain the experience, but also like, I wouldn't say fans, but like just a family like out of these people, out of their fans. Like there's still people who I tap in with from like that tour 4 years ago, who I still chop it up with now. We still check in, and they still want to know what's happening. So that's a beautiful thing. So it's really just taking all of those things in the journey and just using that as the fuel to keep going forward, man. So I think that's what that moment has really taught me, the real definition of resilience. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, definitely. And you also spoke about how, when you got out there and you thought that, man, I'm raw, it's about to be on television, and, you got feedback that, you wasn't necessarily going in there expecting. It was a very humbling experience for you.
For sure.
Can you talk about being able to, now, a lot of people can't accept criticism from people who, are within their own circles, even as people who really care about them. So I understand it's a different dynamic when you're hearing from Fat Joe, who's a platinum selling artist, when you're hearing from Cardi B, who's a diamond selling artist, when you're hearing from Jadakiss, who, I don't know if he's platinum, but, a gold selling,
Platinum in the hood, man.
Say it again?
He
Platinum in the hood. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like a very revered and skilled artist such as Jadakiss. So like, how have you been able to handle criticism, Frankie? Because, I feel like that's something that really kind of hinders a lot of artists. They can't handle when, something that they've worked so hard for to, make as great as they can, when, people necessarily, people have certain things about it that they don't necessarily like. Like, how do you handle criticism? Because I feel like you handle it better than most artists.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just come with like, that's a life tip. Like, all criticism isn't bad. You know what I'm saying? I think like that's one of those stigmas people should kind of rewire in their brains a little bit. Like just because someone's giving a suggestion doesn't mean that what you're doing is bad. Maybe it just can be improved and be better. So, I'm my worst critic. Before people hear was like what I drop or the type of content that I have, I listen to that over and over and over and over, and I probably rehearse it, practice it, and reshoot it over and over, whatever that content may be. So it's like I'm already got those thoughts in my head. And then also making sure that I give myself grace in those moments, because it's like, all right, you could have did this better. You could have did this better. And it'd be like small things. But also be like, yo, you did this good. You really shined through on this. This looks way better than like, or sounds way better than something you did a couple months ago. So just keeping that in mind, and then realizing that, criticism, you just can't take it personal. Like, it doesn't mean that they're attacking your character. And a lot of the times it's subjective and opinionated, but, you can either take that and be like, forget you, or you can kind of really think about that and be like, what were they talking about? Like, if I was to think I was the best rapper, you know what I'm saying? And like, in that moment, and Fat Joe or whatever, Slim Joe, Skinny Joe, all of that, like, I'd be like, all right, who is you to say that? You know what I'm saying? And make a fool out of myself. I probably would have made it on the show, like, making a fool out of myself. But like, at the end of the day, it's like, nah, because he probably heard that from people too. He probably heard that from Pun or something, like, yo, like, this hard, but you can still step your pen up and stuff like that. So, really, that's just how I see it. Like, if as long as and you're confident in the work that you do and the foundation of it, it should be no problem with someone, giving you pointers to tweak it to make it a little bit better, or, at least seeing that point, So that way you get that second opinion, you try it out. Maybe it ain't, maybe it's not hitting how that person thought, and, you could scrap it, but at least that was something that could have changed the trajectory of whatever you did. So that's how I take the feedback, man.
got you. Now, artists, definitely make sure you pay attention and listen up to that right there closely, because Franks is an artist that I've watched grow from his first album to what will be his fourth, and I've seen nothing but tremendous growth. So make sure you take that advice. It's coming from a great place. Frankie, you mentioned, that when you receive criticism, that there could very well be an opportunity for you to step your pen up. And based off of from what I've heard from your first album to what I heard on Liberation, first album being Frank's the album, second album being Liberation, you got to Black Monarch is your most previous album to date. Excuse me, not Black Monarch, The Butterfly Effect. Black Monarch is a song off The Butterfly Effect. Go run up them streaming numbers. Nice. But, up until that time, I've watched your pen severely grow. What do you attribute and how have you just became better as an artist? Like, a lot of people are like, oh, you need to do this better, you need to do that better. But what have you done to go from, where you started to where you are now? Because like I said, there's been tremendous growth.
It's crazy, man. I think the big thing is just going through life. That would be my second answer. Just going through life and how I experienced life last month is not how I experienced today or even last year. So I think I use a lot of the experiences and stuff like that. Like as I'm growing, I would say my experiences have elevated and stuff like that. So I can even think about Frank's the album. There's a bar that's yeah, right, I'm living my best life. The only thing I gotta worry about is my next flight. And then I'm wishful thinking, homie, I ain't there yet. I ain't there yet. But then we get to, Butterfly Effect, or Black Monarch, off to different states to get away. I be on planes chilling. Just that, now we went from wishful thinking to actual execution phase. And I think another thing, the biggest thing, the first thing that came to my mind was I always listen to, I always get into these moments when I listen to old Franks, sometimes I tap into the SoundCloud me because that was a whole different era, where songs really didn't matter as far as structure. You just spitting bars and stuff like that. And for me, I feel like those were some of my best lines for those times. You know what I'm saying? Like some of my best lines, most wittiest lines and stuff like that. And then even listening to, when I'm preparing for another project, I listen to the previous one that I dropped and be sometimes I be yo, how did I do that? Or how can I get there? And then it just end up being something a lot better because I overthink it. And then, but I also be I don't want this to sound the complete same. I still want to give it a little flavor where it's this is still Frank's, but oh, this is Frank's. This is Beautiful Daze Frank's. This is not the same Frank's the album or Liberation when he was going through the pain, or even Butterfly Effect when he made it through and stuff like that. This is flourishing pain. I mean, this is that flourishing Frank's. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man.
Frankie, you spoke about too, going on tour with Griselda. You got a cosign. I don't even want to say a cosign, but I'll say this: Conway the Machine, one of the nicest boss spitters to ever grace a microphone.
Salute, Machine.
Definitely. It was blown away by you, according to his own words. He absolutely loved the way you structured your raps. He you know what I'm saying? He thought that, in his personal opinion on your music, that, that you're a great up and coming artist. Mm-hmm. So, you went from getting, criticized by Fat Joe and Jadakiss and Cardi B to, getting, praise from, getting support against, a 21 gun salute from somebody such as Khan. Mm-hmm. What did that do for you? Because you had already bounced back being on tour with Griselda.
Yeah. Really, it just gave me that affirmation, I'm in the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. I even think about that situation in 2019, the audition in John, and then think I was in my senior year of college, I would have had to take a semester off, and especially if things, let's say I did make it to the next round, and I didn't make it to the next one after that, I would have been out of luck. You know what I'm saying? I would have had to. I probably wouldn't have graduated when I did. And everything that fell in line after that probably would not have. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, I would just say it just made me think okay, I needed to go through that to be able to fully embrace this moment. You know what I'm saying? Because if I didn't, so for an example, I wouldn't in New York City in front of a crowd that I did not know, whether staged or not. You know what I'm saying? I went in front of a crowd that I did not know, and some people rock with it. Like some people came outside and was or like see me outside was like, yo, keep doing your thing. But there was some people who like basically like yo, this nah, bro. Like they laughing and you know what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So it was like okay. So for me to experience that, now I'm prepared for anything that happens when I have any other performance because I feel like that's the worst. The worst thing that could happen besides that is either getting thrown off the stage, getting tomatoes or whatever thrown at you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I've experienced the humiliation. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm gonna just give you this pain. If you like it, that's cool. If you don't, you know. But we try to stray away from that if you don't because it's like I want people to enjoy their time. If I got the stage for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, I want you to enjoy that for the whole entire time, whether you know every song, whether it's your first time tapping in, stuff like that. Um, so yeah, man, that's how I kind of have seen that, and that's really shaped me into kind of the artist that I am.
Mhm.
Just to stay humble because it's like you can have your high moments and low moments, but just know forever you won't be sitting in either of those moments. So how do you find that balance? You get what I'm saying? So
Now, Franks, being on tour Griselda, what did that teach you? Because I try to get people to understand that Griselda is truly something unique,
mhm,
from a standpoint of it's Buffalo, New York. No disrespect to Buffalo, but previous to Griselda, you know, I ain't gonna say there wasn't any talent there, but it was almost impossible to break out of upstate New York. Labels aren't
facts.
necessarily in Buffalo looking for, talent. And, Griselda was able to go, what I'm saying, get their city behind them and, eventually blow up into the, nationwide as they are now. Wes
Mhm,
and Khan signed like a deal with Shady, Aftermath, and then Benny, I think he stayed independent, but then he eventually went and got that deal with Def Jam.
facts.
And, they've really done something that had never been done before, in Buffalo.
Mhm.
So, what was there? What are? I don't know how much you can get into it because I know some things that happen on the road, got to stay on the road. But what was the experience like being just
Yeah,
with them and seeing that the way they handle their business and the way they market their music and the way they go about things? Because they make very much different music from you. Because they're
yeah.
coke rap mafioso. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like throwback '90s vibes.
Mhm.
And you are. I'm not gonna say you're not that, but so you guys have two different styles.
It's a
But
different,
you
yeah,
know.
different side of the spectrum, and I think that's a good thing to like point out because they so gritty and hardcore and like you know what I'm saying, like just they embody that side of Buffalo so well.
Mhm.
Um, and then like to go on tour with them and for their crowd to be receptive too,
Mhm.
to see what the other side of Buffalo was. So I think they opened the door to be like, wow, Buffalo is a place, and this is Buffalo. Like this is not like this don't sound like no country. Like how people perceive upstate when they hear about it. But then it's like everybody's not like that in Buffalo. So it's like how can I make that balance? So it's like um I still kind of have those elements in terms of like the grittiness, like not the hardcore lyrics, but like you hear the grit, you hear like I go through my obstacles too, like in Buffalo, and we come from the same environments, but how it shaped us just was different. The things that made us different was they stayed in the Buffalo and the street life and stuff like that, and then I kind of had that encouragement to take this education lane. You know what I'm saying? They just found their education in other ways, and so I think I think the concept is really just authenticity. Because I don't spit that type of content, and for their crowd to still rock out with me, it's like because they know it's still real. Like they still could feel it. Like when I rap, you don't hear like my recorded lyrics over. I want you to hear like this is how I really feel, like and how that sounds is different for every performance. But I want you to know like how that feels live in this moment. And so yeah, man, and really just show like we like we've been Buffalo has always been um undervalued or like not been seen as anything, but like now I think Griselda has shed that light, and so it's like for other artists like me and like the little artists or like the little this little that those type artists, but also like the introspective artists as well. It's like they open the door. Now we gotta show what's happening. So that's what we doing now, and really just show like you don't gotta ride nobody's coattail. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people in the town, I could say that they feel that Griselda has to always give back, or which they do, but um I feel like in the ways that they do it, like I feel like people they want Griselda to sign everybody. That's not how it works. Like the opportunity that they gave me, like that was more than enough for me. Like they didn't sign me and stuff like that. I still be chopping it up with them and stuff like that. But they just gave me that platform and that's all I needed, man. All I ever needed was a chance in the mic, man. So
Appreciate you for shedding light on Griselda because I absolutely love what they're doing. They're putting on, like I said, I'm born in Atlanta, but I grew up upstate. So I absolutely love just seeing Wes, Khan, Benny, and then even some of the other guys upstate, 38 Special and Stove God Cooks.
ooh,
Yeah. I'm really happy just to see, everybody from, the upstate area really putting on and getting to the money and, keeping, a lot of, I don't want to say true lyricism, but keeping a lot of, classic, lyricism alive, you know what I'm saying? Keeping Coke rap alive. So I love to see Griselda taking the reins and going along with that. And thank you for shedding light on them. But shout out to Griselda. Frankie, let's talk about the Beautiful Days album. Now, because you mentioned, a line off of there. What has this album been like? What has it been like recording? What has the process been like? What have been some of the challenges? What are some of the high points? Like, talk to me about Beautiful Days, because this album has been in fruit coming. This album started back in like October. So, what has it been like doing this album?
definitely. So this album has definitely been a different feel. Like I think even in terms of the whole process, like I think just like grand scope right now, like um recording at recording a album or project at a college,
Mhm.
like especially a renowned college that I never took a class at, like
Mhm.
that's something that's still like mind boggling to me. Um, it's also different from other projects because I didn't have the same amount of timing that I had to prepare for other albums. So like for an example, I feel like all my other albums was always like at least like roughly 2 years apart from each other. So that's a lot of time to experience life, a lot of time to recollect things and overthink things. I think that's a big thing. So with this project, it was like everything was like real time. Like I appreciate you for, what I'm saying, like just all the resources and uh really getting the ball rolling on it, like so it's called Beautiful Days and that's really what this project felt like. Like um beautiful doesn't always mean like everything has to be always aligned perfectly, but it means that like even through the obstacles and the things that we had to, what I'm saying, maneuver through, it still is a success and gonna be a success. Like definitely a different feel as well, like just in terms of like the amount of attention, is on it. Like never did a promo press run before, so to have like radio interview shows. Shout out to Nate and Imani, like never, what I'm saying, never did a video like in the process of making an album, it was always like, oh, I got this album out. Let me just make a video to it because that's what you gotta do as an artist, or at least feel like you got to. Um and I was able to reflect on a lot of things in real time. I think like all my other projects, because I had like almost that 2 year gap, I was able to go through these things, heal, or however I process that, you know what I'm saying, and internalize that. I was able to do all of that, but with this, it was like, okay, what can I say that I haven't from the butterfly effect, which was like what, like age 24 to 25, like how can I be current to right now in this short little time, but also like make it potent. And so a lot of the feelings that I had in this project was written in real time, and you can hear that through the just through the lyrics, and like hear it through the influctuations and stuff like that, how like the aggression, or through the sentiments that's displayed through the lyrics. And I think a big part of that is really attributing you to that, John, you know what I'm saying, like every other project, I probably went to the studio by myself, just me and the engineer, and we just grinding out. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I just recorded this song. All my lyrics is perfect. But like, I never thought about the element or intentionally about the element of feelings because I'm like, I already wrote the songs from the feelings, so you should already feel it based on what's being said. But you have to, in order for that to happen, not only does the lyrics have to have that sentiment, but you have to have that sentiment as you projecting it, and expressing it. Especially because music is audio. People can't see you physically unless you do have a video and stuff like that. So it's like how do I get that point across and how can I what's some game I could give people going into the summer? So that's really what this project was, like top down music, like but also man, like just having fun and continuing on this journey of music, you know what I'm saying? Oh yeah.
Uh, Frankie, I really appreciate that. That was powerful. I love when music comes from a good place. I love when it comes from a place of authenticity. I love when music comes from a place of realness. I love when it comes from the heart. And just hearing the songs that you've recorded, just hearing the songs that you've written and recorded here, I thank you for letting me be a part of the process because I was always so inspired whenever we left the booth, how we had to pull a whole bunch of strings to make this thing happen. This kind of leads to my next question. How do you feel about this album? Because every artist says, okay, this is my best album, this was my worst, this was my most personal, this was one I wish I could have redid. How do you feel about
Mm,
Beautiful Days? Truly, like, do you feel like it's your best work? Because you 4 albums
ooh.
in.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. I feel like after every project, it would be like, yeah, this is the definite best project. Um, I would say, I would say, probably can't compare it the in the same type of criteria that I did with other projects because I feel like my other projects had like a similar format to it.
Hmm.
Like for an example, like um you know m- one of my grandmothers like praying and stuff like that, and even like the consistency with the same producers and stuff like that. So this is like all new producers, um yeah, all new producers that I've never really worked with, um and like I said, just a different feel. I'm in a different like zone in my life, like where I'm not really coming from anger or hurt or anything. It's just coming from like a point of understanding, and I think that's it's come with the maturity. So with this project, I would say right now it's my most heartfelt John. Like I think about it, I listen to these songs. I'm like, although it is gonna be a single on there, like none of these songs are like have that single feel like I'm about to just listen to it and like run it up on some like Ice Spice type grind. Um, this is more like you gotta take some time. Like it's gonna be catchy and stuff like that, like a single, but um, still gonna be one of those things where you gotta keep replaying because it's like you won't catch everything in the beginning, or if you did, um, still listen again. So I would say definitely one of my most heartfelt joints, and I would say right now I feel like I'm the most proud of, especially due with the just all of the obstacles we went through. Proud of you, my brother, for
Thank you.
you know what I'm saying. Like this is my first project where I wasn't like like spearheading everything. I just got to be the artist, so that allowed the artistry to shine a lot more. So yeah, that's how I would say this feeling of this project is like definitely different than anything else I ever put out.
What's your favorite song on the album?
My favorite song, I don't know, man. Definitely listen to a lot of them. I mean, I listen to all of them at least a couple times a day. It depends on the mood, but I would say right now, Sunshine. I would say Sunshine is my favorite song right now because it got like a not a singing hook, but like kind of like a harmonic, and then it's just like a feel good song. Like the beat is like it's like a upbeat, shiny feeling, and just even the things I'm talking about, like we it's not really about the obstacles in that joint. I mean, it kind of is. Like every day I be grinding on a mission. Like it's like one of those get up and go get it. Like just keep the faith. All that to say, you know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna be okay. You gonna find your way. Like just really affirming. You know. So if anything, if you're not rocking with the lyrics, you got some affirmations for you. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the way that I live my life. Like I can't say that I pray every day, but I do try to I can't say that I intentionally pray every day, but I do try to get it in, you know what I'm saying? Whether I'm eating or before I go to bed or like even just through the day. Like so that's kind of what that song is like speaking towards. Just giving thanks for it all, but to keep going because it's always gonna be another day. It's always gonna be another sunrise, you know?
Frank, so you've done a lot of reflecting in this album, just from what I can hear within the lyrics. And I remember yesterday when me, you, and some of our friends were speaking, we sat down and you said that, you've been doing a lot of things to fulfill your inner child. So,
Mhm.
and I'll let you describe those things if you would like, but essentially, do you feel like this album helps you kind of talk, be the voice that you wish you would have heard when you were coming up, when you were younger?
Mm. Yeah. Um yeah, I think as you said that I do like I think back to there's a song called Make Peace, which is the outro, which is like a song to like a specific part of me. Just talking to the kid version of me. Like if I had the luxury to talk to like me at as a young G, before we even have a conversation, I'm a hug brother, be like, yo, I know you gonna go through some pain. I know you've been through some pain already at whatever age that, I was speaking to myself at. And we just talking and like just non-judgmentally talking about it, like kind of I'm kind of like giving like me at this age kind of talking to myself as a young G, like these things are gonna happen, but this is how you gonna handle it. And like then kind of wrapping it up with being like, you did yourself, like as a young kid, you did yourself, like you did everything you could, so like I got it from here. Like you don't have to, like your inner child doesn't have to be hurt no matter where you are, you know what I'm saying? Like your inner child doesn't always have to feel wounded and things like that, like especially if you're an adult, because like now you can do things about it. Like um even think about like the intro, them dreams that I had when in my mama's living room, like when I was spitting rhymes at the age of the 10 to 9, like that's me being a kid, you know what I'm saying, fulfilling the things that I love to do at those moments. And I mean, even throughout the process of this album, like I've been fulfilling my inner child, like, always continuing to do the traveling. Like I bought me a PSP, like, like just to tap back into my inner child and like play those games that I really used to rock with. Them joints still be hitting too, man. So I would say like those are some things that like this project has granted me, like definitely to kind of start that conversation a little bit more proactively, and just not forget about who you used to be as well. Like that would be like one of the big overarching goals too. Like don't forget where you come from. And um we can be like Deion Sanders, how he built prime time. Like he built prime time out of like to want to have a better family for himself and his mom and stuff like that. And I kind of became like this character that he played. Frank's is not prime time, but it's kind of the similar type aspect of it. So
Frankie, couple last questions to wrap up. What do you feel is your most impactful song on the album?
mm,
Which ones do you feel like is really going to touch people the most?
ooh. So we talked about Buffalo. I love Buffalo.
Mhm.
My first album, I made a song called Buffalo,
Mhm.
Buffalo. That's the place where I lay my dome. Now on this joint, we still pondering on names. Aphrodite sound raw, but it's like a Buffalo part two on this project where it's like, okay, yeah, like we pretty much wow. I don't know how many, like since
5 years.
2018. Yeah, like we 5 years from that
Yeah.
first joint, and that was just like the first Buffalo was just for like a tour guide. You know what I'm saying? Talk about Niagara Falls, talking about Jim Steak, what you can get to eat and stuff like that. But then also talking about like the grittiness of the East Side. So with Buffalo Part Two or this Aphrodite John is more about what what have we been through recently? Because Buffalo been through a lot last year. We've been through, you know,
Hate crimes.
hate crimes.
It's one of the scariest injuries I think we've ever seen. One of the scariest injuries we've seen in professional sports.
Facts.
World. Sorry to just take your thunder like this, but record-breaking snowstorms that claim people's lives. It's been it's definitely been something in Buffalo.
Yeah.
But continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, just with all of those factors in consideration, it's like I wouldn't be me. I'm saying I'm from Buffalo and rapping this place and stuff like that if I didn't like talk about those things. And as I talk about healing my inner child, like I want to provide some healing and stuff like that for my city as well, like through this song. And I know that music won't be the end all be all, but like I think it does start that conversation and like at least starts that spark in the change of your moods, feelings, emotions. So I think that would be my most impactful song, like especially for people in Buffalo, but impactful to me because that's a place where I come from. Like that's where my family is. Like I remember, like especially with the shooting. Like I remember hearing the shots. Like I'm opening my door, like, and I hear them joints ring off, like, and then like just seeing the initial pain and people that didn't even know what's going on, but like seeing people scattered on my street alone. You know what I'm saying? And like, with the winter, like going to Nashville, and then like my whole, my family in Buffalo is like in there going through that type of pain. It's like how can I help? And you can't in those type of situations. So that's why I would say it would be the most impactful, just because of all of that, like all of that put together. It's a lot of baggage that's released in that song.
Shout out to you, Frankie. I always love when people put on for their city and when people, speak about, the things that when people are from a place and they speak about the things that actually go on there so we can have a better understanding. So, you're very much connected to the city of Buffalo. And, it's a beautiful song and I can't wait to share it with everybody. Frankie, lastly, saying before we get up out of here, is this your best album?
I'm gonna have to leave that to the G's. I'm gonna have to leave that to people who's tapped into like Frank's the album, Liberation, Butterfly Effect, like even SoundCloud Days and stuff like that. But personally, I think it will be, when it's all said and done, like I think even now it's a top 3 Frank's project. Like even like taking into consideration like mixtapes and all of that. Like it's definitely a top 3 just in terms of the experiences with it. Like definitely a memorable project in terms of like the grind put in it, the just the content in it. Yeah, and just because it wasn't expected. I wasn't expecting to create a whole album. You know what I'm saying? Like as we, when we talked about it initially, it was like, okay, 3-4 track EP. I'm like, that's easy. That's easy. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna take some work. It's gonna take some grind because I gotta figure out what stories I'm gonna tell, and like 4 tracks is concise. But like I don't know, man. To see it go from 3 to 4 to like now like 8, that joint is crazy. So I would say it's a top 3. Just because like just all of those factors taken in consideration. The most excited like of a drop, I think so. Because it's like just the work, you know what I'm saying? Like you put so much work in, like even after the recording process of the album, like the things that take place after that, you know what I'm saying? Like doing the videos, running here and there to make sure that these people know about the project, people whose this is for are gonna receive that. So yeah, man, I'm excited, brother.
Well, Frankie, listen, thank you so much for coming through on to the show. It's been an absolute pleasure to sit back and make this album with you. I'm so glad when I first came here to Syracuse University, I wanted to make sure that I was able to bring, people who I came up with, such as yourself, such as Nate, and, some others to, Syracuse and be able to, see this campus and explore like its possibilities and, what I'm saying, to help people outside of myself. So there's almost nobody I could think of that's more deserving than yourself. And I just appreciate you for all the game, all the knowledge, all the wisdom. I'll tell a quick story. I remember going into my sophomore year, I had became an RA, a resident assistant. And, I remember as I say, I would just watch, Markel. And Markel, was, out. He was handling business. He was a part of 3 or 4 different organizations. He was rapping. He was performing. I just really seen a whole lot of grind, a whole lot of effort. And I just seen like the legacy that he was leaving. And I remember I sat back to myself and, I asked him one day, like, I said, hey, I was like, yo, bro, like, how do I blaze my own path? You know what I'm saying? How do I be successful? And I remember I won RA of the year. And the first person who greeted me off stage was actually this. It was actually 2 people before Markel. But the first person was a man named Eddie. Shout out to Eddie if he sees this. And he gave me a handshake and a hug. Then there was another man named, was it Jed? Was Jed there? Jed was there.
Shout out Jed.
Yeah, shout out Jed too. Miss my dog. Jed gave me a hug too. And then as soon as I sat down and I was at the table with everybody, Franks came up to me, tapped me on my shoulder. He's like, that's how you blaze your own path. And, I just wanted to tell you, homie, that I appreciate just all the game and all the knowledge and all the wisdom that you gave me. I would not be in the position I am today, helping me when I moved from Atlanta halfway through my senior year and then helping me get back up on my feet. And now I'm 2 weeks out from graduation. I owe a lot of the thank yous to you because, you listened to me and, you helped me and you guided me. You gave me a lot of good support. And you gave me a lot of good wisdom and a lot of good guidance in order to get to where I am today. So May 13th, when I trot my ass across that stage, it's definitely a lot of credit is owed to you. But anyways, Frankie Knuckles, anything else that you got to tell the people before we get up out of here?
Nah, man, you know the motto. So we going to end it off like that. It's a beautiful day to have a beautiful day. So what?
We're going to have one.
Come on, let's do
And with
it.
that being said, this is Markel, Franks Jeffries. I'm Timothy Markel III. And as always, I got more to say.